Good evening and welcome into yet another edition of Tribe Talk here on this Tuesday evening. And it is a rainy Tuesday out there. A lot of weather delays and warnings and everything. And joining us first on the show today is the one of the middle school coaches. It's Doug May. And Coach, first of all, thank you for taking some time out of your evening to join us here, talk a little bit about the middle school program. And obviously, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with us here today.
Thank you very much. I was just out at the volleyball game and they had to send everybody to the locker rooms and said, you either have to go to the locker room or get out of here. So here I am.
All right. Hey, well, it worked out for us. We'll
You
just put
bet.
it that way. So, nonetheless, it's been an interesting few days. Weather has kind of played havoc on a lot of the other things going on. But for you guys on the middle school program, nonetheless, it has been a fun year, needless to say, for your squad. Looking at your guys' updates on Facebook and on your different social medias, and seeing the younger guys getting that advanced learning as they continue to grow and grow and grow each and every week. I'm sure it's been nice for you guys as coaches to be a part of it.
Yeah. And we try to make it fun because it is middle school and they have to, it's when they're developing that passion. And so we do make our practices fun and make something to going on. And I put on a video yesterday on Facebook of a kid doing about a 20-foot slide in the mud puddle. So yeah, it was awesome.
That's always good, especially you can bring that aspect into it, and I guess winning certainly helps that a little bit out too, for especially at that level where they're trying to get that knowledge of the game and trying to figure out where they want to go with the game in future years. But I'm sure that in its own right as well has also been a key part too. Is the fact you guys are able to go out on a Tuesday or Thursday night and find your guys on the winning side of things.
Yes. We've been blessed this year that we've had plenty of numbers. I mean, my brother and I, Don and I, are the seventh grade coaches, and we have Steve McWilliams and Scott Camfield are the eighth grade coaches. And being a sixth grade teacher for the last so many years, I've been recruiting.
I'm
So
sure
we,
that's a nice
yeah,
part of the job too.
yeah. So we started out the season with 30 kids,
Wow.
and we're down to 27 right now.
Hmm.
29 with we got a couple injuries,
Hmm.
but so we have the luxury that we have bodies. And so because we have the bodies, we can throw a defense up against us and we can and learn the fundamentals. And my brother takes one side of the ball and I take the other side of the ball. So we're teaching them all throughout. The eighth grade coaches, they just don't have all the quite the bodies. They only have 14 out right now. They've lost a couple of injuries, but yesterday we scrimmaged the eighth grade, and it's the first time we scrimmaged against them this year. And first we were holding them back pretty good, and then we started subbing some others in. They got a little bit of momentum going, and then we subbed all our starters back in and the momentum. So it was good for the eighth grade too that they could actually hit bodies in practice. So
Absolutely, and that's kind of the biggest thing too, is those younger guys getting that experience, getting that knowledge of the game, and trying to learn step by step at the second level before you get to the high school level. You know, a lot of those kids you guys have as seventh graders right now in the eighth grade group were part of the youth program, and they've kind of worked their way on up, and now here they are underneath you guys and continuing the success that they had at the younger programs.
yeah, I mean we stress the team.
Hmm.
I mean, we played a game earlier in the year. I'm not going to mention who, but we played a B game, and their coach had to be out on the field to show them and direct them on where to go. And we were shuttling in plays, and the kids were acting like they knew what they're doing, and it was just a prime example that it takes the whole tribe.
Yeah, there you go.
It takes the whole tribe to have the success. And we're running the same thing all the varsities running, so that way when they do get around to ninth grade level, then the vocabulary and everything is going to be
Right.
flowing right into what they're going to be doing at the high school level. So,
Absolutely. And it's paying off at your guys' level, specifically being a part of the seventh grade group. Talk to us a little bit about the seventh grade team this year and kind of your guys' overall viewpoint, and give us some of the highlights of the season so far.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I think we've been averaging over 30 points a game. Um, one thing I would say I want to be proud of is we had a game over in Sheraton, and the AD called our AD after the game.
Oh,
Uh,
not
and
always a good
not
call
always good.
either.
And we, beat them pretty handily. But the thing is the AD complimented us on playing everybody, that we, called the dogs off and we gave everybody a chance to play and actually gave them some success and made it a game. Yeah, we did come out, like 20 points up, but um, we got all our players the opportunity.
Right.
So yeah, so I mean, it's been a total team effort all around. But we have a couple different players on the offensive side of the ball. We got Jack Cooley and Jesus Vega, and they've been kind of our primary runners. We have a little scat back, Shea Matthews.
Yes.
He's only about 4 foot something and fastest one on the team. So everybody has been participating. And we got a line. I think our offensive line average is probably 170, 180 on seventh grade.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and we got some couple big old tight ends, and you know they like to block and hit
A
and
lot
catch.
of a lot of guys you can lean on, multiple guys you can lean
Yeah,
on.
we're pretty faceted. I mean, you can't key on one kid.
Right.
So I mean, we can shuttle in. I feel confident shuttling anybody in there on our A team or our B team, and they're going to step right in.
Perfect. And that there shows the lessons that they have learned, the steps that they have taken to become better football players as the year has progressed. And I guess, I asked this to a lot of different coaches who I talk to, but when you're working with the younger guys specifically, you're working with middle school guys, can you see the progress that they make from day number one to now?
Oh, that first game. I mean, no matter what sport I've ever coached at, when you go into that first game, that first meet or whatever, you're like, oh man, we're not prepared. We still have so much to work on. And we showed up. And I said that was a game that the other coach had to be holding them by the hand to show them where to go.
Hmm.
And our kids were set. I mean, they were, I
That's
mean, it was
perfect.
like, yeah.
That's a proud moment for
So
you right
you
there.
bet. I mean, the kids were the ones that even picked up on that. Like,
Awesome.
did you see what was going on out there? So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That is good. And now those eighth graders will be moving up as freshmen this next year, and the seventh grade group that you guys got this year will move up another class, and when they get to move up, they also continue to grow as leaders in
Yeah.
that right as well.
Yep. One thing that we give them the opportunity is we have captains for each game, and we choose everybody.
Mhm.
I mean, there's not. We could say, okay, these are our key players, but everybody gets to be a captain, and then that's their opportunity to step forward. So when they're out on the field and the referee has to call them in for a penalty or something like that, they get that opportunity. So they get
Perfect.
to step up. So, I mean, I coached freshmen and JV for years. I'm probably 15, 16 years.
Mhm.
And then I got the opportunity to go down to middle school when my son was in middle school. And um, then he's up in high school now. And I thought, well, I could always go back up with him. But I think that, we got to develop this core down below to help feed the program up above. And so, yeah, talking about the growth from day one to, watching them go through high school will be amazing to see what these kids can do.
Absolutely, and obviously it's all in a learning process, and like you mentioned there, you could have easily just kept climbing on up as your son kept moving up forward, as he kept growing and continuing to play at the next level, at the high school level, and could have kept going there. What kept you at the middle school level?
Um, Being, I guess, my elementary teacher, and then I've coached middle school track, middle school wrestling, is I want to see those kids molded
Hmm.
and to give them the fundamentals that they can carry on up. Because like you said, you can see the growth so much more from learning how to tie your shoes
Right,
to learning how to strap it on and hit somebody across
right.
from them. So to be able to see that growth and mold, that's what the sense of accomplishment is seeing here. Look what this kid can do now.
Perfect, and that is obviously something that you guys as a coaching staff can hang your hat on. And I'm sure it wasn't by any means that your brother was coaching by any means either. You didn't want to stay with him or anything like that.
No,
But
no. I mean, I've been with him for 49 years. I don't. spent 9 months inside with him.
It's bad. It's bad enough that he looks like you too. So
He's uglier though. So
we'll go with that nonetheless. So,
Yeah.
Coach, we really appreciate you stopping by here and talking with us about the middle school programs and everything. Nonetheless, you mentioned your middle school wrestling and track as well. Talk to us on that kind of. Give us a little bit of a plug for that.
Okay, well, I'm already recruiting.
Yeah, there you go.
So I mean, what makes a better football player is a better tackler. So then wrestlers are just double leg takedown.
Right.
So I'm recruiting in wrestling right now. So last year we had pretty good middle school, and we're going to send some kids up to the varsity level that should be able to help out for the wrestling program. We also had 5 girls wrestling last year.
Wow.
And I don't know if any of them are going to pursue. They were all 8th graders, but I don't know if they're going to pursue. But I mean, that's a great opportunity for our community, for
Absolutely.
the girls. So we have just seen our numbers increasing in the middle school wrestling program because maybe of the recruiting and the importance of it. So that is awesome. The junior high track, we've the last 2 seasons we've run 3 different meets. We've broken records, and the kids are just getting better and better and faster. And I mean, it's always a competition, but when I first took track, I was kind of selfish. I was doing it to make better football players.
There you go.
And now I've developed into a kind of a track coach as well too. But so that was my sole reason, is so I can get better football players.
Absolutely. Obviously, in its own right, very very cool for you to be at that level, and you can, like you said, you can watch each and every one of them grow and say you had a little bit of a part in that as they were younger.
You bet. I mean, we have some of the running backs at the high school that I didn't realize they were as fast as they were until they got into junior high track. And then it's like, you know what? Hey, we got some kids that we can develop. So
Right. Perfect. Coach, thank you once again for stopping by. We really appreciate it. And we'll let you see if you can't get back into the gym at the volleyball game.
All right. Thank you much.
That is the 7th grade football coach, Doug May, joining us here on Tribe Talk here tonight. We'll see who comes up next here. We got a nice slate on Tribe Talk this evening. If you do have any questions, put them in the chat here right on the YouTube page. You've got it right on the YouTube channel. You can take a moment, have any questions for Coach Mathis. He'll be coming up here at the end of the show. We'll also talk coming up next. Looks to be freshman coach Craig Wisniewski. He'll join us here next, and we'll get him ready to come on as well. Do want to thank Percussion, the restaurant, for joining and hosting once again. It's a fabulous place, opportunity for us to be able to have this spot, this location, to do the Tribe Talk live from. Joining us now is JV and freshman coach Craig Wisniewski. And Coach, thanks for joining us once again. It's obviously your first time on the show.
It is my first time on the show.
I don't know if that's more or less for sole purposes because you didn't want to, or because I didn't want to.
Well, I think it might have been a little bit of both.
Well, I guess we're gonna see how this goes. This is your trial run.
Hey, here we go.
All right, nothing better than to be live, nonetheless. Let's talk a little bit about the freshman JV squads here. We'll start off on the freshman side of things. Talk to us a little bit about your freshman team this year, Coach. Give us a little bit of an idea of what the younger guys that are learning the game are doing this season.
Well, right now we have a very big group of offensive and defensive linemen. We're a little number-wise behind on the spin back and all our running back type people. The future's looking great for the linemen and making the holes for those guys that run the ball.
Right.
They're developing really well. Tonight at practice, I told our defensive line, both freshmen and varsity guys, that, hey, this is the best practice I've seen us have as far as getting off the ball and stance-wise, and they're starting to pick stuff up. So the future's looking bright.
Fundamental-wise, for sure, you take these younger guys who are obviously, everybody in the program is new to what you guys are running on the high school side. Everybody from the varsity all the way down to the elementary kids. So that in its own right is a learning curve. But when you're taking these guys who are freshmen, who are trying to get to the high school scene, they're obviously in their very first high school sport. Most of them are. I'm sure that is a little scary for them. How do you guys kind of make that transition easy for the football program?
Well, right now they're working with our scout team. working against our varsity guys. And at the beginning of the year, you could tell the freshmen were kind of timid a little bit, didn't know quite what is going on as far as when we go to individual, they would kind of stand in the back and um, take everything in.
Right.
And right now we have freshman guys that are kind of stepping up to the second and third group instead of sitting way in the back waiting their turn. The first game that we had, we started a lot of those freshman guys, and they you could tell
Yeah.
it was their first time playing high school football.
Yes.
And it turned out to be, instead of a freshman game, it was a JV game, so they're playing against guys that are sophomores and juniors. And
Right.
they kind of looked shell shocked at first, and then once they started going, oh, this is what it's about, they kind of turned the switch a little bit and figured it out.
Right. Settled in and kind of got their feet underneath of them a little bit. Talk to us. I guess we'll start off on the freshman side first while we're continuing on the freshman. Give us an overview of the freshman season so far. I know you probably don't have numbers memorized by any means, but just your overall thoughts of the freshman season this year to this point.
Right now, we've had 3 games. And although all 3 of them were losses, they've been developing, and that's the key thing, I think, as far as our younger guys, our freshmen, our JV, keep getting better day in and day out. And like I said, that first game we walked in and those guys are going, holy cow!
What do I do?
Exactly. In the second game, you can tell they were getting a little bit more comfortable. The third game, they kind of took things that we were teaching in practice, and you could see it kind of turning over for them. And for some of those freshmen, that first game, things were moving so fast, and they didn't know in their head what was going on.
Right.
And by the third game, it slowed down enough that they could figure it out.
When you take a look at this year's freshman group, where have you seen the biggest growth point from this year's group? From years maybe necessarily in past, you haven't necessarily seen it, but what is some things that stand out to you about the freshman team this year?
There's the numbers of offensive linemen. In years past, we've always struggled
Right.
having enough offense and defensive linemen, and with this freshman group coming in, we've got those numbers. And coming in, you can kind of tell they were raw. They didn't really understand blocking and how where particularly to block and how to block. And now that we've worked with them, that light bulb, that freshman light bulb, I call
Right.
it, kind of turned on, and it's like, oh, okay, this is how we do it now.
Absolutely. We'll switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the JV squad now. Obviously, like you said, some of your freshmen play on that squad, and then obviously your sophomores and juniors and some seniors who don't play at the top level, at the varsity level, are part of the JV squad. And unfortunately, weather's kind of played a factor in a lot of their games this year as well. But one thing's about it with this new turf, we can kind of play whenever we want, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. We don't have to worry about our footing
Right.
as much as we've had in the past with the natural grass. And these guys, every practice, every snap, every rep that they take, that it only makes them better.
Right. Absolutely. Talking about the JV squad this year, what's the numbers looking like on the JV squad? I know they probably fluctuate from game to game, but for the majority of those guys who see the majority of the field and the playing time on the JV nights, what do the numbers look like there?
Right now, we're sitting at about 14, 15 regulars, as I call them. We fluctuate, like you said, between some of those guys getting moved up, bumping up to varsity for a game. Some of those varsity guys maybe get bumped down just to give them some reps at other
Right.
positions, getting them ready for maybe not this year, but maybe looking into the future.
Right. Get some of those younger guys who are playing at the varsity level, those reps where they're kind of in their own element now, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, we got a freshman starting varsity. We've got some sophomores that are starting varsity. They're 2-year starters on varsity, but yet, future may dictate that they have to play somewhere else other than where they're playing right now, and that's kind of where they're getting those reps to get them ready for that.
Absolutely. When you look at the JV squad this year, a lot of different guys come in and play. Like you said, you got varsity level guys to freshman level guys, and anywhere in between come and play on the JV squad. What are the challenges for you guys as a coaching staff to kind of piece things together and see if they can work night in and night out for JV squad?
The biggest thing for us is who are we going to have that week,
Right.
And we want to maintain and stick to our original what our varsity runs and offensively and defensively and special teams, and every once in a while we'll have a guy that is playing a position that they didn't take any reps for
Right.
during the week, and they're like, well, what do we do? And we kind of go on the fly a little bit, but a lot of those guys get those good reps, and we might see something on JV where we have a kid playing somewhere where they're not used to, and we're like, ooh, I like what he does there,
Yeah.
and we may try him there on the varsity level.
Mhm. That kind of leads into what my next question is going to be on that is obviously you see what these guys who are playing the JV games can do. I'm sure Coach Mathis and Coach Reese kind of come to you guys and say, hey, we see what they're doing. What are you guys seeing in practices and in game situations? I'm sure that that kind of plays hand in hand.
It does. This is, I've been around football for quite some time, and this is one of the closest knit coaching groups that I've been involved with, and we bounce ideas off each other. And the great thing is Coach Reese defensively might say, "Hey, I want to try this kid at this position." I'm like, "Okay, let's try it." And if if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we really don't have anything to
Right.
lose.
Right.
But I'll say, we can come back and say, oh, he looked really good there, and then all of a sudden on Friday night, guess where he's playing?
Well, that's obviously the name of the game and what you guys want to be seeing. And I'm sure that you guys are able to see the development in these guys, and then when they get to that varsity level, when they become juniors and seniors who are well developed and able to play, I'm sure it kind of gives you guys a little bit of a proud moment to say we were part of that when they were younger, kind of getting them up to that next level.
And that's the name of the game, especially down at the lower level. Getting them ready for their shot at the big time. Varsity football.
Awesome. Coach, thank you for taking some time here with us tonight, and we really appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks.
All right, that is JV and freshman coach Craig Wisniewski joining us here. Do want to thank Percussion once again for obviously being a gracious host here to us here at this Tribe Talk Live. We'll be here every single Tuesday night until the end of the football season. We got PCM coming up this week, and we'll talk a little bit about PCM and Centerville here with the defensive coordinator of the Clark Indians, Brian Reese. He's going to join us here now on the show, get him set up and ready to go. And Coach, we'll let's get up here. But thank you, first of all, for joining us here tonight, talking a little bit about Centerville, talking a little bit about PCMs, what we're planning to do. We really appreciate you stopping by.
Well, thanks for having me.
Obviously, this is unlike Coach Wiz. You get a second chance on this show. So apparently, what you did the first time worked out for you. So we'll get you on the show a couple more times throughout. But nonetheless, defensively, it's been an interesting year on the defensive side of the football. You go from opening game shutout right out of the gate to holding a team in Nottoway Valley to 20 or 12 points, whatever that may have been. And then you've seen a couple of nights where you're playing an athletic guy or two, and it comes out to they kind of just overman on their individual side of things. Nonetheless, it's been a wide array. You guys have seen a lot of different things on the defensive side of the football. Talk to us this year about give us an overview about the defensive side of the football this year.
Yeah, we've we played Des Moines Christian, and they presented a lot of problems for us because they spread us out, and we tried to. We actually played the same nights against them that we played against Mount Air.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a 3-3 stack, and we were much better against Mount Air than against Des Moines Christian. But as the years gone on, and we've lost some kids with injuries and stuff, we started getting a little thinner, and so we were not able to rotate as many guys along the front, and that's probably hurt us a little bit. We lost both our corners, which we were able to play we were able to man them up earlier in the year against some teams, and that really helps you when you can do that. So we're battling and we're trying to do what we can here and make plays when we can.
And one thing that a few people probably don't realize is how young you guys really are on the defensive side of the football. Like you said, we had a couple of guys go out, couple of leaders for your squad on that side that went down. But you've got some of those leaders. You've got that leadership ability there, but also the fact that there's been a few guys that are not necessarily your most experienced guys taking the field on Friday nights.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting guys experience that probably some of them wouldn't have gotten experience this year without injuries, and it's going to pay off in the future, hopefully for them. And just unfortunately for them right now, they're a little bit physically undermanned, and but experience is the best teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen with some of our younger guys as they've played more, they've become more comfortable and they've done
Right.
a better job. And we played Des Moines Christian, and honestly with them there's a couple scheme things that we tried some different things to try to slow them down. They didn't work, so we tried something else that didn't work. So we finally got to a third thing, and and we so that was probably scheme. Sadell, we made some physical mistakes where we just didn't make some tackles, and this last game we made mental mistakes. We were in the right position, and we kind of go with the guy that doesn't have the ball,
Right.
instead of the quarterback
Right.
who ran all over us. So
And I guess one thing about it, film doesn't lie, that's for sure. So you guys can go back and kind of point some of those things out.
no, exactly, and the coaching staff and I, we were talking this today in practice, and we thought if we could just get a little bit more help from the offense, that'd probably help us out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because bottom line, this last game, their offense scored more points than our offense, and what are you gonna do?
Yeah, no kidding. That's the tough part. But nonetheless, you played a very talented quarterback in Jackson Oker this past week against Centerville, and 49-30 loss. It is a game that went possession for possession for possession, where there was no punts. You said, I believe you told us earlier in the week that
Yep.
there was no punts in that ball game, and it came down to a lot of turnovers. It came down to scoring points, and it just came down to field position in its own right.
Yeah, exactly. And we tried to make some adjustments, but again, quite honestly, the schematically, I think we had the right scheme. It's just a matter of executing that scheme. So.
Right.
And it's not going to get any easier for us. I mean,
No.
we're looking at PCM, and they run. I saw the highlights of their game from Friday night on TV, and the first two plays I saw were the exact same plays we couldn't stop against Centerville. So it was a restless couple days of
I'm sure.
for me.
I'm sure it was trying to come up with some sort of plan or some sort of scheming thing that you can say, okay, now what can we do here? Or what do we need to do here? And like you said, a lot of it is just assignment and alignment football, where you just got to be at the right place at the right time and do your job in that situation.
Well, and like you said earlier, film doesn't lie. So we're coming in and we can show, here's what we didn't do correctly. Here's what we need to do better. And at the end of the day, as a coaching staff, we're teachers. So, it's up to us to, teach what they need to see, and maybe we need to change our lesson plan. And we did that a little bit tonight in practice. We worked a little bit more on, these are our keys, these are things we read, trying to simplify things for our players, because I think as the year's gone on and we've thrown more at them, they've started to slow down because they're thinking too much.
Mhm.
And, I took one of our linebackers today and I just said, I want you right there. I'm going to point a direction. I want you to come that direction. And I want you to think it all. Just boom. First time I point, he's like,
Just froze.
I'm like, no, just go this way. So we,
Right.
Work that out. And again, I think we got better tonight, and hopefully we got still some work to do before Friday night, but
Tough.
that's what practice is for. So.
Absolutely. Tough task coming up, and we'll get to that here real quick. Do want to ask you a couple of things about just the season in general, Coach. When you look back at the year to this point on the defensive side, what have you been most impressed with? What's things that stood out to you this year that you've been most impressed with on the defensive side of the football?
We've Zane Hart's the one, as a defensive end. He's a senior this year, and he's done a really good job at the defensive end. Just kind of a surprise for us. We just didn't really know what to expect. He hasn't played a ton of varsity football, and he's had a good year. He really has. Sometimes he freelances a little bit too much, and we've had that conversation with him. But he's making plays, and it's hard to follow the kid when he's out there trying to do things to make plays. And Riley Domina in the middle, has been a nice anchor for us. He's leading our team in tackles. So those are the top two guys in tackles. We have Z with Zethan May that's had a few interceptions for us, and that's been good. And we've turned the ball over. I think until these last two games, I think we were either even or positive in turnover ratio for every game. So, and that's what we need to do. We're not necessarily going to get in there and stop guys.
Right.
A lot of 3 and outs.
Right.
We try obviously, but I kind of have with our defense. It's kind of the TCU defense.
Mm-hmm.
We run that 4-2-5, but it's kind of the Iowa philosophy of the bend but don't break. Yeah, so the teams will move the ball on us sometimes between the 20s. And the name of the game is score. We've done a pretty good job until the last 2 games of that, I thought. So
Absolutely. Nonetheless, it's been a good year for you guys to kind of go back on it and see what has been nice to work with, and moving forward. The nice thing is, like we talked about, there's been a lot of young guys on your defensive side of the football. You get to see them come up next year. I'm sure that gives you kind of a focal point to work with already.
Absolutely, and we ended the year last year with 3 freshmen playing on the defensive line, out of our 4. So, and you can see those guys with a year of maturity, how much better they are this year. And, they when we ask them to do stuff, they know already, here's our base of what we want to do, so we can do some more things with them. And we're going to see that with our younger kids that are playing right now, going into the future.
All right. Well, it's been a question that nobody's seemed to answer yet this season, and the top team comes to town on Friday night. You're taking on PCM. I guess without kind of giving away the whole shebang, what's the overview for Friday night? What can you tell us a little bit about Friday night?
We're going to have our hands full. I think the thing with them is you must just have to pick your poison. They have their quarterback Reed Worth is in for a lot of yards, and they've got Cummings, the halfback, a state qualifying, state place winning wrestler that is tough at that halfback position. So, I think what we've preached was we've got a game plan. We want to try to follow that game plan, and we just have to stay disciplined with it. I don't think you're going to stop them completely. I don't think we're going to hold them to 0 points. It'd be great if we did, but that'd be a bonus. It'd be the upset of upsets at that point. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to give our team a chance to win, and that's trying to. It can't be like last Friday where they're going to score down, every time they have the ball. Mm-hmm. So, we got to try to get some stops and give it a turnover offense and let them go to work.
PCM obviously is the top team in the state. Nobody's been able to slow them down necessarily. When you look at film, what is it that they do on the offensive side of the ball that seems to be giving teams fits to this point?
Well, honestly, it's nothing real flashy. You watch them and you don't think, wow, there's Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, moving the ball up and down the field like that. But, they're physical at the point of attack. They've got some really big kids up front that are athletic. They have some athletic kids in the backfield, and they know their stuff. They've been running this offense, since middle school or before, and so you see it, and they're not gonna. It's a little, and again, that reminds me of Iowa a little bit. That this is what we're gonna run, and stop us,
right?
That to this point, they've done a good job of it, and. We just hope that we can kind of stand up to the physicality that they have. And that's something we talked to our kids about is, playing physical, playing fast. I think, again, we were thinking too much. That was slowing us down a little bit. So we're trying to get them to play a little more physical, a little faster. And hopefully that's going to help us.
And it gives you guys that, that opportunity this Friday. At this point, playoffs kind of look like the far away picture, but it gives you an opportunity on Friday to kind of wreak a little bit of havoc into this RPI system and into the district rankings a little bit.
Well, and two, and it's one of those things. They're ranked number 1 in the state, and number 1 RPI, number 1 by the AP. Um, we get this victory, and our kids are going to have something to talk about at their 30-year reunion.
Exactly.
So regardless of where we stand or where they're at, and you want to go out and you want to compete, and we've done that for the most part. So this is a challenge for us, and we recognize that. The kids recognize that, and we just hope we can get in there and compete with them, and see what happens, because you never know. I mean,
Right.
I'm hoping we've had tornadoes all week. So maybe we're gonna get a high winds and rain and everything else. I'll slow them down, help us as much as we can.
There you go. Anything like that could be a factor. I do want to ask you on a personal note. You were a part of the last full time winning season here at Clark as a football player. When you're a part of a coaching staff that has seen such vast improvement from year one to now, what does that kind of give you from a personal standpoint and from a coaching standpoint?
Pride. I mean, we had our '87 team back at homecoming, and I know several of those guys because I was a sophomore when in that season. Didn't play a whole lot. I didn't play any on varsity, but anyway, I talked to them, and that was a Sadell game, and we had a couple missed tackles and stuff here and there, and I went over to a couple of our guys that were really good defensive players, and I go, I promise I didn't teach them to tackle like that. So, but it's being an alum and having knowing that our program has had success at points in the past. It's been a while, but it is possible. And I was there as a freshman when we went from a varsity where it hadn't won in several years to having a winning record, and then that next year going to the playoffs, and then having just one
Right.
game under 500, and the next year being conference champions and kind of launching that. When you look at the history, there's a 5-year window there that was probably the most success we've had as a program here. So, we're trying to get to that point, and kids hear you talk, and it was 100 years ago, so they're
Right.
they're going to pick what they want. But like I said, we know what it takes, and I've seen it. It's possible. And you want to have pride. All the guys I played with, you like them to be able to look in the internet now on Friday
Yeah.
night or Saturday, and see, oh, Clark, we won.
Right.
So that's something we're striving for.
Right, absolutely. It's obviously the standpoint from that point looking forward. You get the pride factor, and you're obviously very happy to see that. And like you said, from a coaching standpoint and from an alum standpoint, it gives you a lot to look forward to, and something to work towards now. And I'm sure that that's been a message for this year's team moving forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, having those guys back, and having them talk to the team, and just kind of, having the kids maybe look back and say, "Oh, I wonder what that was about." And their
Right.
picture's still on the trophy case, and there's all that stuff. So it's it's always nice, I think, to be able to reach back into your history and say, "Here's a way we've done it before. Here
Right.
and possible." So.
Coach, thank you for stopping by here tonight. We really appreciate it, and talking a little bit about the defensive side of the football and kind of the growth and everything you've seen this year.
Thank you.
Awesome. That is the defensive coordinator of the Clark Indians, Brian Reese, joining us here on the show tonight on Tribe Talk tonight. And coming up next, we will have the head football coach of the Clark Indians, Dwayne Mathis. He will join us here. Do want to thank Percussion for giving us a great place to host this each and every Tuesday night. And now going up and joining us here is the head football coach of the Clark Indians. That is Dwayne Mathis. And Coach, first of all, thank you for once again stopping by and joining us here. And obviously, it's a pleasure to have you on the show once again.
Hey, appreciate it, Damon. It's always great that you're able to come out here and provide this for our fans and our fan base. And I think it's something that can only grow from here, and just really looking to see how it continues to take off.
Absolutely. If you do have any questions for Coach Mathis, leave them on the chat bar here, or go to our Facebook pages. You can comment there. We'll get to those throughout the end of the show here. As we get to the end, we will talk a little bit first. Let's talk a little bit about Centerville. I know obviously you don't want to talk about that game by much, but nonetheless, it saw a nice offensive output from your squad. Once again, you were able to put quite a few points, keep yourselves right in that ball game.
Right.
Unfortunately, you just ran into a buzzsaw named Jackson Hoker, who found ways to get the job done.
Yeah, hats off to him. He wasn't their starting quarterback to start the season. McCain Oden had started off there, and he just kind of saw some holes and put his head down and got up there and had a record night for him. But I still look at our performance, and we in third quarter, shortly after halftime, they come out, we get an interception, go down, punch it down, and get another quick turnover after that, and it's a 28-22 ball game at that point. And we're down by 6 points, and we just needed to get a stop and get the ball back, and because we really felt at that point, we could kind of score at will. I mean, we were matching them, touchdowns, and unfortunately, we had a couple turnovers, and that really kind of set them up for good field position. The first one, first drive that stalled was, that was kind of my fault. I thought it was a little bit more manageable fourth down, and ended up turnover on downs for them, and gave them a short field to work with. But there were some other things that, at play there too. With we didn't have Brian that game, and so was our our punting and stuff was kind of a question mark on who we were going to have back there handling those responsibilities.
Right. Absolutely, and in a game that didn't see anybody really punt, nonetheless. But you guys come out and lots of good things to talk about on the offensive side. Takeaways from the offensive side of the game against Centerville on Friday.
Yeah, obviously Riley goes over 100 yards again. He has, looking here on the stats, Riley had, just over. I believe 120 some yards rushing. He had 2 touchdowns. So that was a great opportunity for him. He's still, he has 10 touchdowns on the year. Then we have Amani Fry, who also went over 100 yards. We had total yards. We had total yards. We had 421 yards of offense, and we finally got that monkey off our back, and we're able to get a receiving touchdown there. But so people can stop asking me about when we're going to get those. But when this just our mindset is when we have 382 yards rushing as a team. We don't need to put the ball in the air.
Right.
And we're not fortunate like some programs who have 6'3", 6'4" kids back there who are slinging it, all summer long kind of deal, and specializing like a Jackson Waring, a Des Moines Christian, who you can tell that he probably goes to some college camps and stuff like that, and we just don't have those type of kids, and that's not a knock against us. It's just we have guys who are playing baseball all summer and doing or working kind of deal, and so. I think this offense really suits the style of kids that we have.
And you said it right there. You got to play to what you've got, what you've been given, and certainly have been able to do that. No, you make a mention of people asking you when you're going to get that receiving touchdown. I'm sure that's a nice question to ask than being asked, when are you going to get a touchdown in general? I'm sure that we've talked about it multiple times in last year's point. Were come bare to minimum at nights, and then here you guys are scoring 30 points, and people are asking you, when are you going to score a receiving touchdown?
We can never make them happy.
No, absolutely not. You can make only a certain few people, but that receiving touchdown by Dalton Stubbe was one of many that been interesting for scorers this year. Talking to a few people and hearing it sounds like it was a rumbling way into the end zone.
Yeah, well, first of all, he just made a tremendous catch. I mean, looking at it on film and just kind of replaying it in our minds when we were watching it. I mean, he just a fingertip grab that was kind of a low throw, and I thought it was going to be incomplete. And then, he hauled it up, and then, he just, rumbled for 26 yards in there, and he ended up having a guy on his back, and I think he ran over one to get there. And I never even actually saw the. I thought he was just short, to be honest with you. I didn't
Really?
see the officials threw up a late sign, and I was already into the next play calling, and all of a sudden we ran the play, and they're waving it off, saying no good and I was like, oh, we scored for the 2-point conversion, and because we were just looking to punch it in at that
Right.
point. And but yeah, it was just a great effort play by him, and nice to see him get in there. And but going back to your point, last year we had just under 600 yards of offense,
Mhm.
and right now we're second in Class 2A. We have two very tough opponents in front of us.
Right.
First of all, with the number one team in the state, PCM, coming into Clark Field on Friday. But we just the progression. That's kind of the key word that we've kind of mentioned in regards to like our coaching staff and
Mhm.
what we've been talking about to our kids is you got to look from last year to this year, and the progression that we've made has just been tremendous. I mean, it's really night and day, and that really the hats off goes to our kids, and they bought into what we're trying to do here. Not that we're trying to wish away the season
Right.
where we're at now. I mean, we still have 2 games left, and us coaches are still coaching our tails off, trying to talk to them about ways that we can have success for these last 2 games. And but just the future of Clark football is extremely bright, in my opinion. I mean, especially another year in the system. We don't lose too much.
No.
I mean, we do lose some seniors, but we've moved on from Peyton and Garrett because of their season-ending injuries.
Mhm.
So we haven't really missed them as much as if we've had them all season long,
Right.
and then had to find a way to replace them after the fact. But we've kind of already filled in for them on guys that we'll have back next year.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, that's just like, we're essentially already playing with next year's team.
Right.
Besides a few positions like Riley and Amani and Zane Hart and some others.
Mhm.
And so, we don't feel like we lose too much going into this next year, and another year in the system, and and kids are another year older,
Mhm.
more mature,
Absolutely.
and a little bit stronger from the weight room. And man, I'm just extremely excited and get fired up when I think about it.
and a right to be. You mentioned talking about being second or a second in the class in rushing, and you're averaging 6.3 yards per play
Mhm.
this season, and you scored 28 total touchdowns on the year. Nonetheless, just those kind of numbers, you look at it. If you were told that at the end of last season that this year you guys were going to average 6.3 yards per play, and you guys were going to run for 20 or have 28 touchdowns on the year, run for 27 of them, and be second in the class in rushing, what would you tell that person?
Well, I probably can't say that on this this
Okay,
program,
let's
but
go. Let's go PG rated then.
no, I would just say, well, I'm not there yet. Just to the fact of, we have some other things we need to prove first before, we, consider ourselves an offensive juggernaut kind of
Mhm.
deal. And, but just kind of looking back through some of the records that we have, and, hopefully that they're the accurate ones. I think Coach Goose in the late 1980s, like 86, 87, had a team that averaged, 30 and a half points per game. And right now, granted, we still have 2 very tough opponents in front of us
Right.
that can, kind of help reduce this average that we have. But right now, we're just over 29 points a game average. And, so the second team that's, scoring average was below 20 points. So,
Right.
I mean, it was a big drop off from Coach Goose's team to that next team. But a lot of people have said that they feel like this team is one of the best offensive scoring teams that they've seen Clark have. And,
Mhm.
that, makes me excited because then, going forward, what's that, this next year and the year after
Right.
and all this stuff, when, I mean, it's the potential is just, I mean, tremendous.
It's there, and you guys, like you mentioned, you've got a lot of young guys who will be continuing with the program as you guys move forward. Do want to you mentioned a couple of your seniors that have been big, and they were big once again on Friday. You mentioned Riley, just over 120 rushing, and then Amani. He sits there with 100 yards rushing and a score, and also a young guy that has kind of stepped into a role in Carlos Ianez, and he ran for 77 yards on 9 carries on Friday as well. So you're seeing a lot of those kind of guys. Harley Leaps, another young guy, led the team in tackles with 7 tackles. So a nice mix of experienced and young, and it's getting the job done. You guys, again, 30 points against a Centerville team that has been showing that they can stop teams as well.
Yeah, and I mean, now granted, I mean, they'll say that they've had some injuries, and we've had injuries too. I mean, every team in the state of Iowa is dealing, with injuries in week 7. But again, my takeaway is a year ago, this team beat us, I think, 49-0. This year, they still put up 49 points. We were just able to put up more points,
Right.
And again, the key word here is progression, and our team is making progress, and but those kids that you mentioned, and I just want to talk about as we go into, senior week, is our last home game of the season for our seniors. And, guys like Riley Domina, Peyton Winship, Garrett Moore, Zane Hart, Taven Floyd, Emmanuel Mosley, Juan Echeverria, all those guys on the seniors that have, they've really stepped up and contributed. And this turnaround, is in part to their buying into what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And, so, we just owe them a lot of gratitude, and they're not done. If you were at practice today, the way that they were flying around and looking, listening to Coach Reese, implement his defensive game plan, and they're fired up. They're taking the mantra of let's go shock the world.
Yeah, absolutely, and they have a right to be as you guys get set to host the number 1 team in the state. We'll talk about PCM here in just a little bit. Do want to finish up with Centerville. A couple of other things. Obviously, the normal game time was moved up because of weather, and that kind of can play havoc into your guys' game planning, can play havoc into your planning on just getting your normal routine down. Do you feel that had a little bit of an effect on your guys just preparation wise, getting set up for that thing before finally settling in, or was it just another one of those deals where it's another piece of adversity that we're kind of used to seeing already?
I don't necessarily think that the moving of the game time had that big of an impact. One thing that I think did kind of play into factor where, it just kind of, we talked about it as a coaching staff real briefly. And, and I put this on me as realizing, and I don't even know if you realize this, Damon, but last Friday's game was the first game this season that we played on natural grass. And I should have done that, inventoried that a little quicker, and probably had us off of our game field on our old practice field, which is a natural grass surface, and just to get them used to that footing a little bit better. And, and not that, we've kind of gotten a little spoiled, with the field turf. And, but I think that, with a wet field and, kind of, their field wasn't beat up too bad, but it was just a wet, loose field. And,
just
I think,
like everybody's in the state now.
Exactly. Just like everybody in the state that doesn't have field turf is dealing with.
Right.
And, I think that took a little bit of our guys just to kind of get their bearings on that. And, so I guess if looking back on that, I probably would have had us on our natural grass field. Just, in preparation of that. But, as far as like the game time moving up, I think we were ready. We kind of, we traded punches with them, and, unfortunately we just, we had guys in position. We just couldn't make those stops. And, but, the nice thing is, they struggled stopping us too. I mean, so
Yeah, absolutely, and weather bound to play factor again this Friday. Luckily, you're on the turf, but
Right.
it is still going to be a wet football. It's still going to be a wet ground. You guys will be playing on nonetheless, as you know, weather's been affecting pretty much every single day for the past almost 10 days. It seems like for forever now.
yeah,
But you know, with tornado warnings all around us last night and tonight, nonetheless. But here we sit on Tuesday night, heading into probably the biggest game of the season when you guys get ready to host PCM. It's senior night. They're the number one team in the state. Nobody's been able to find a way to stop them yet. It's a big one coming up nonetheless. Your early thoughts on PCM?
well, they're probably the best team I've seen on film in the last couple of years, to be honest with you. I mean, they have some explosive athletes with Worth. He's leading the way for them. They just it seems like they don't they don't have to rebuild ever. They just reload.
Yeah.
And Coach Bonnet over there has done a tremendous job, and he has them ready to play. Part of I'm sure that some of their players may still be a little fired up about last year's game not happening.
Mhm.
So I imagine that they're going to come out pretty fired up and ready to play. And but I'm sure there's some of those kids over there that are overlooking Clark. I mean, their eyes are set on the postseason. As they've already played Des Moines Christian and Sheraton, and really kind of took it to them. And I know, as I've been on teams where as you get prepared for the postseason and your eyes are set there, sometimes it's you get that a little bit and kind of wanting to get into postseason mode, and so that's kind of the message that we're telling our guys. And we've all heard the stories of teams that have no business kind of being in a ball game and find a way to make it happen.
Right.
I mean, you look at every weekend, you see it on the college level.
Mhm.
You're that Appalachian State, beats Michigan.
Right.
I mean, there's other times, UNI beats Iowa State. So sorry, Damon, had to throw that.
I'll just come back. When Iowa State beat Oklahoma State. Number two. I'll come back with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's times that
Western Michigan beating Iowa. I had to throw that one in there.
Yes, I was waiting for the MAC school to come in, and
we're gonna do something.
Right. Well, North Dakota State beating Iowa. I mean, so it happens all the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, and so if they don't, if they're not gonna take teams seriously, then sometimes that can come about and bite them in the butt, kind of deal. And but the one thing that I do know is they're a really well coached team, and I don't expect them not to be taking us seriously, because that's just that would be out of character for them. So.
Very talented team in PCM. When you take a look at them on film, you've mentioned it, that they're probably one of the best teams you've seen on film in the last couple of years. What makes them so special on either side of the football? What is the thing that stands out to you as a head coach looking in at this game? What stands out to you about PCM, and what things that they do that kind of pose a challenge?
Well, number one, that they're a big and physical team. I mean, they get up to the second level and stay on blocks, and they're just explosive. When they hit holes, they explode through there, and they fly to the ball. I mean, so all those things that you preach and talk about, they do really, really well. It's going to take a total team effort for us to be able to do that. But with the way that our guys are fired up right now, and especially with that last game of this season at Clark Field, I think that they're going to be even a little extra motivated for that, and looking forward to showing our home fans that there's still a lot of fight left in them for the remaining two games. But hey, one thing I did want to mention here, Damon, though, is because sometimes I think it gets overlooked is all the behind the scene things that it takes to be successful. And not that she is asking for any extra attention or anything like that, but especially after a game on last Friday, my wife washes all the jerseys, and she had a little anxiety when she found out that Centerville's was a natural grass field. And she spent probably 90% of her weekend washing our away jerseys and scrubbing them, and making sure that they were in good condition, for our game in 2 weeks at Sheraton, which is on, again, natural grass field with our white jerseys. But, she's kind of one of those unsung heroes. She doesn't ask for, any recognition. She'll probably be mad at me for mentioning it. But, that's just one of the great people that we have involved in our program, like even yourself and others who step up to make sure that, our program is being put out there. And, I know Terry had a question on Facebook that he put out there.
We'll get to that here in a quick moment too, as we finish up the show here, as we're just at the top of the hour here. So a couple time real quick. Do want to ask you, senior night is this Friday as well. We want everyone to get out there, support the seniors this Friday. Kind of give us your highlight of the seniors real quick.
Well, I just think the way that these guys have just showed our younger kids how to come together and just love being around each other. I mean, it's really started with them and the bonding that they do outside of the practice field and the game field. And it's just been really special to see. And, half these guys, when we're done with practice, they're still on the football field, throwing the ball around, doing stuff. And that's just been really special to watch. We're going to do something special after the game for those seniors to recognize their contributions. So, I hope the fans stick around after the game so they can, kind of pay tribute to them and take part in something that I hope that, carries on from year to year. So
absolutely, and those seniors certainly deserve all the recognition, obviously being the catalyst in this turnaround season here this year. All right, let's get to that. Terry Freeman has a question for us, a co-worker of mine and a guy who kind of checks in on you guys from time to time, just always asking what's going on over here when I talk to him on Mondays or even throughout the weekend. But a question for him this year, with the season down to the final 2 games, how are you keeping these guys fired up and not giving up on the season with 2 big games coming up?
Right. Well, my message to them is, they still have a legacy to write, and what are they going to leave for the next class coming up, next kids coming up? We still have 2 games, to play, and regardless of how good or how bad the opponent is that you're playing, when we started the season, our focus was not playoffs. Our focus was progress, and we've seen that, and that may be some teams or coaches may be thinking, how can he not be thinking playoffs or anything like that? But from based off where we finished our season last year, that just wasn't kind of at the forefront for us, and so how we keep those kids excited is we come out and we're energized ourselves, ready for practice. We show them we haven't fluffed off any of our game plans or anything like that. As coaches, we still spent 3.5 hours on Sunday together trying to get a good game plan together and ready to implement on Monday. And so that's what we show them. And I think from their sitting and watching us and talking about what we need to do correct, and we're still coaching them up just like we did when we were started out the season 2-0. So
absolutely. Terry, thank you for your question. And every week from here on out to the end of the season, if you have a question, leave it in our comment box, also on Twitter as well for Coach Mathis. We do thank that as well. Coach, we are at the end of the show here. We do thank you once again for stopping by and joining us and making this happen each and every week. And obviously, I think this live setup seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah, it's really been enjoyable. And again, I know you said it, but thanks, Terry. He's always had some nice things to say about our program from what we're doing, and those things are good. I mean, to hear, because it kind of validates what we're doing here, and I think it's good for the kids to hear that as well. So, but yeah, it's I think the Tribe Talk Live has been a fun thing. I think it's it's there for people to watch if they can't watch it live even. And, I'm looking forward to seeing, maybe we can get, our sign in the back, kind of, step it up, get some, we got Percussions has been awesome taking care of us here and allowing us to use this. So again, we thank them for that. And, don't forget after Friday's game, after the game, come on out to Percussions and, grab something to eat because they're staying open late, for that after football game crowd.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you once again for taking some time joining us here, and good luck as you guys get set to take on the top team in the state.
Hey, appreciate it, Damon. And as always, one tribe.
That is the head football coach of the Clark Indians, Dwayne Mathis, joining us here on Tribe Talk. That will do it for this evening's show. Join us next week. We will have the rest of the year coming up, and we'll talk PCM. We'll talk Sheraton on Tribe Talk.